The first video in a bunch of videos that will show you how to draw the pedestal table on SketchUp. This first video is going to show you how to draw this base part of the table. So basically two pieces that interlock with a halving joint to create a stable base. You can find the plans on the Timber website, Corpus Timber website, by ducking down. You'll see a Google slideshow here of plans to get all the dimensions that I'm going to use to draw the table. So the first thing is drawing these two parts here. That's the first thing we're going to do. Alright, first things first, we need to open up a new SketchUp model. So open up SketchUp. If it comes up here, sometimes you'll get a window, sometimes you don't. You've got to go new from template. Go woodworking millimeters. Make sure you're in millimeters because I don't want to be in inches because that's American. And first thing we're going to do is pick up the rectangle tool. You can see I've got the large tool set over the left hand side here actually. We may need that, so to get that I'm just going to make that go the full screen there. If you want to get the full tool set, you've got to click on view, go tool palettes and large tool set. That will pop up over here. Alright, so I probably could make that a bit smaller, that screen. Let's just push that over. Give us a bit of room there. That gives you more options than just up the top. Alright, so first things first, we're going to draw a rectangle. And I'm going to refer to the plans here. So a total width of this base, it's 92 from here to here, but on this part of the plan you can see the total length is 200 millimeters. Okay, and the height is 50, and the width is actually 16 mil. It doesn't say it all that clearly on these plans, but it is 16 mil, the thickness of the timber. So the first thing we're going to do is draw a rectangle on the ground that is 200 millimeters by 16 mil wide. So pick up the rectangle tool, click once, draw it out into a general rectangle shape, and then you can type in 200, 16. Goes pretty small, so you can use two fingers on the trackpad to zoom in, and wherever your pencil is there, it will zoom in. You can pick up the orbit tool here, just orbit around and have a look. That looks right to me. 200 by 16. And next thing we're going to do is pick up the push-pull tool. So this is what makes 2D shapes into 3D shapes. So I'm going to select that. Hover over the rectangle until it goes dotty, like that. Click once. And I'm going to pull up to a random length. Select again, or press on the mouse pad again, and type in 50 and press enter. And that is the overall rectangle size. Now, a little trick here is we're actually going to draw just one end. And then because it's mirrored on this end, we can use that end. We only have to draw this end once, and then we can copy and paste another version of it over here rather than drawing it twice. So I'm actually going to shorten this. Rather than having this at 200 millimeters, I'm going to shorten that to half the length. So to do that, I'm just going to pick up the push-pull tool, click on the end, and bring it back 100 millimeters. So click and type in 100 and press enter. So as long as you don't deselect out of this, if I do this again, if I just click on here and go bring that out. As long as I don't click on anything else, I can type in 100 and that will go to that distance. So if I was to shorten that and then click over here, I can't then type in 100 and enter. If it doesn't, it kind of goes back the other way. Okay, so just going to double check that's 200. There it is. So what we need to do is make this rectangle 100. I'm going to bring that back to 100 and press enter. So just a way to double check you've got 100 millimeters there is to get your tape measure tool. You can click on one end, drag it to the other, and you'll see that that says 100 millimeters, which is good. It's always good to double check your sizes. So from that same point, got 50 there, which is the height, and then the width is 16, which is perfect. So if we want to deselect that, we can just press the escape key on the keyboard. Alright, now, just going to flick back to the plans here. We need to draw this kind of curvy line here, which is kind of tricky. So I'm going to use that tape measure tool a few times here. So grab that tape measure, click on it once. From the bottom left hand corner, I'm going to click once. And I'm going to just come up about that high, and we're just going to type in 10 on the keyboard and press enter. And that gives us a little point. If you can see that point there, that's 10 millimeters in, up from the bottom. Next we're going to go from the top point, click, and come along the top line, click again and type 40, and press enter, and that gives us another dot. It's a bit hard to see, but there is a dot just there. That's 40 millimeters in from the end. Okay, I'm going to join those two dots with the pencil tool. So grab the pencil tool, click on the first guide point, drag up to the second guide point. It will automatically snap to that point. And pick up the orbit tool. We're just going to orbit around so I can see it a bit better. And we're going to get rid of all this part. So we're going to get the push-pull tool, and we're going to select that face, drag it back to the back until it says offset limited to -16. I'm going to click on it and it will disappear. I'm going to get rid of that initial guideline here now by picking up the mouse tool, clicking on that guideline and pressing delete. We're also going to get rid of that guide point there by highlighting around it. You can kind of zoom in on it, just highlight around it and press delete. It's not happening for me for some reason. That's okay. No, it doesn't want to delete. That's okay. Alright. Now, as you can see, we've got a harsh kind of point here and there. We actually need this to be curved. So what we're going to do now is create a 2-point arc that's 10 millimeters wide, or with a 10 mil radius, I mean. So what we're going to do is pick up the tape measure tool, and because this length is 10 millimeters, we're going to measure on this line 10 millimeters. So starting from that point, click once, drag in that general direction, then type in 10 and enter. It's pretty tricky this, so understand if you need to watch this a few times. What we need is the 2-point arc tool. So if you click on the arrow where this arc tool is, an arc is the outside of a circle, that's not quite a whole circle. Click on that arrow down, and you want the 2-point arc. And what that allows us to do is pick 2 endpoints, and then pick how sharp we want that arc to be. So what I'm going to do is basically select this bottom corner, click once, And then I'm going to go to that second guide point and press again. And that's going to give us an arc that we can, I'm not going to press again yet, I'm just floating around on the keyboard. Let me zoom in a little bit here. And so you don't want to click. If you click, you can't edit the arc. You've got to wait until you've got it right. So basically I'm going to get it. You can see down here as the arc gets bigger. Oop, we don't want that overlapping the line like that. You can see that that line has gone outside the actual shape. So I want to bring it back in until around there. That's going to give us a nice smooth transition. Alright, what we can do then when we think we've got the arc drawn pretty accurately, so we obviously need to get rid of this section, so we're going to get the push-pull tool on this waist area here, click once, drag along, and click again. That gives us that nice smooth transition there. We can get rid of this guide point now. There we go. And that one. We should be able to get rid of this line. No, we can't. So what we're going to actually do there, to make that line disappear, because we want this to look smooth, we can click on it, and you put 2-finger click on the trackpad, and go hide. That just makes it look like a nice smooth transition there. So it doesn't delete the line, it just hides it for visual effect. So, nice curve here, which is good. So we need to do the same thing up here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit there. So we're going to go 10 mil again on either side of this guide point. That point. So, tape measure tool. Come to the point, click once, drag to the right along the top line, click again and type in 10, enter. Same thing again, click on the top point, click somewhere down on that line and type in 10, enter. Now we have a guide point 10 millimeters each side of this top edge or top point. I'm going to grab that 2-point arc tool again. I'm going to select the first guide point. Doesn't matter which order you do this in, you can do it either or. Select the second guide point, and we're going to bring that arc around until, so we don't want to put the arc so acute like that because the edge up here is still quite sharp. So we want to get that arc to a point where about there looks good. We don't want it to overtake, so that's fine there. We don't want this line to overtake and go over on the other side of this line, so that looks pretty good to me. Just going to orbit around here so you can see that a bit better. Pick up the push-pull tool. Click on that waist area and push along to the other side until it goes funny like that. Click again. We're going to then get rid of this guideline. And we'll just orbit to a point where it's out in space like that. Click on it with the mouse pointer. Press delete. And then with each of these lines, we're going to 2-finger click and press hide. And press hide. Right. So I want to get rid of this guide point. Right, there's a fair bit of work in that, and that's one side. So I've deliberately only done half the size of this shape for a reason. This is where SketchUp comes into its own, and it's really handy. What we're going to do is make that a component. So we're going to pick up the mouse pointer tool, I'm going to highlight the entire object. It's really important you get every single piece of that object. 2-finger click, and we're going to make component. Doesn't matter what we call it, we just press enter. And that is now a component. As you see, when you click on it now, it brings up a blue rectangle around it, and we can now move it around. Alright, from this point we're going to make, well, this is where SketchUp really comes into its own. It's going to save us a lot of time. We're going to actually make this over this side, actually going to reflect that or mirror that object. So if we go up to Command C, or we're going to go Edit, copy that component, and then we can go Edit Paste or Command V, as you can see the shortcuts here, and bring that mouse pointer in, and that's just going to bring in another version of that same component, which is saving us heaps of time. We don't have to draw all these curves and stuff again. I'm going to get the orbit tool and just orbit to the top of that, and pick up the move tool. And when we orbit over the top, you can see that the box highlights and brings up some plus signs. Those plus signs mean that we can rotate the object if we pick up those plus signs. So if I pick up that one, I can rotate that around. I click and click again, and we can rotate that around 180 degrees. So now it's mirrored. Then what we can do is pick up the corner. SketchUp works best when you're marrying components together or merging them together when you go corner to corner. So pick up the corner of that object and marry it up with the next one. Excuse me. Make sure that's married up exactly. You can see that that's actually not exactly on there. To make sure that's bang on, which is good. And we've merged them together. So now we can just press Escape to deselect. Zoom in on that, just make sure it's all good. Yes, it is. And then we're going to pick up the mouse pointer and select both components by holding down Shift, selecting the other one. Then we're going to go right click or two finger click on the trackpad. And we're going to go to Solid Tools and Union, which means marrying them both together or making a union. There we go. So now it's one solid piece. It saved us a lot of time in not having to draw these curves over here again and doing all that carry on. Now, that's what we've got. Now we've got to actually make a halving joint here. So we're going to need two of these pieces because it makes a cross. But we're going to make a halving joint, which means we're going to take half of the material out of the middle here on the bottom, and then the other bit we're going to cut half of the material out of the top. So what that means is the easiest way to do that is just to do a little bit of setting up before we copy and paste this again. So let's do that. We will click on the object and double click on it so it's editable. And then we are going to go in. Just going to double check this is 16 millimeters. I just had a funny feeling then that that might not be 16 millimeters. It is. That's okay. Good. Apologies for that. All right. Going to click on the object and double click to make it editable. Then we're going to get the measuring tape or tape measure tool. And from the left hand corner, I'm going to click once, go along the base in the general direction and click again. We're going to type in 92. And we're going to do that same thing from the right hand side. So click once, drag along that bottom line, click again and type in 92, press enter. What that should do is leave us with 16 mil between those guide points in the middle. Because it was 200 millimeters long, dragging at 92 from each end leaves us 16 in the middle, which is good, which matches up the width, this width here. Alright, I'm going to pick up the pencil tool and draw two vertical lines from those guide points. So click once. It will snap when it's blue like that. That means it's going vertically. Click again at the top. click once at the bottom, drag up, click once again. Now, SketchUp being pretty intuitive, we normally would have to measure up 25mm here. However, SketchUp has picked up that that's the midpoint, so we can snap to that midpoint and draw a horizontal line across to the other one we've just drawn. So what that does is gives us, once we copy and paste this, we'll be able to take half out of the bottom of one of them, half out of the top of the other one. And that's our halving joint. That's what we're going to use to put it all together. So I'll zoom out a little bit here. Click on that, press Command C, or for those who like to do it this way, edit copy, and then Command V or edit paste, and bring in another one. Look at all that time we just saved by copying and pasting it. Alright, I'm going to try and get that in a good camera angle. Now, the first one here, we're going to double click on and take the top bit out. So we're going to select the push-pull tool, click once, push it towards the back, and then click again and it disappears. You can then pick up the mouse pointer tool, should pick up the eraser tool and erase those initial lines. The other thing we're going to do is get rid of these guide points, so I can click on that. Click on that and delete them. Now, because we copy and pasted this, oh no, it's come up okay. Don't worry about that. We're going to take the bottom out of here. Now, basically, I like to orbit around so I can see what I'm doing. So because we're taking the bottom section out, I'm going to double click on this shape, click on the bottom, and use the push-pull tool, drag that out. So we're just subtracting the bottom part. And then we will also subtract or erase those lines, as well as get rid of these guide points on those corners with the mouse pointer. Okay, now that's what a I keep saying housing, halving joint. If ever it comes up in an exam, what's a halving joint? Well, pretty easy. You just take half out of one, half out of the other. Alright, now we're going to rotate this one around 90 degrees, so we can pick up the move tool, hover over the top, pick up one of those plus signs. I call it a plus sign, it's a rotate sign. I'm going to bring that around 90 degrees. It should snap to 90. If not, you can type in 90 and press enter. And now it's just a matter of bringing these two together. Now, as I said, with SketchUp, it's easy to do point to point, corner to corner. What I mean by that is if I just click on anywhere random on this shape and move it over, it's hard to get it right in the spot. See, SketchUp's not picking it up. How am I going to get that right in the right spot? So what I do is I pick up, okay, this corner here, it's going to have to marry up with this corner. So I'm going to get the corner, end point, bring that over and try and marry it up with this corner. You can see that comes straight in there. That's exactly where that needs to be. Right. Now we have the base all finished up. That's the first thing you'll make in woodwork too. Most people will make the base first as part of this project. Okay. The next video, I'm going to show you how to make the top part. So the top brace that connects the main leg onto the underside of the tabletop.